day. Feels good.
It certainly does feel good, and it feels good that these players, like, it feels good for us to be right about it, but it feels good for these players to really show up and show what they're made of, right? Like, that's the real big deal. Anyhow, spawning over in the bottom left-hand side of Jagannatha as our red Zerg, it is Rogue.
In the top right side, we're taking a look at the main base of the Protoss, who was able to take out Parting, but fell short against Beyond. Can he still make it into the playoffs? This is Trap.
Trap with the gas first into gateway opening. And I mean, he's still lining up the gateway on the low ground and stuff. I remember a long time ago, this used to be almost like super indicative of doing one of these super fast DT builds. But obviously, DTs are very much out of the meta, so I'm wondering how he's going to follow this up, actually.
Yeah, maybe he has seen something in the way that Rogue played his games against Sparting. Maybe he feels that the scouting is a little bit lackluster. And maybe he feels like he can get away with this. What's even more bizarre, Ben, is that Trap did not probe scout at all at this point. I am still expecting him to scout, maybe after the cybernetics score. But against all the Zergs out there, to not scout against this one feels a little bit crazy. You did mention before that the Korean Zergs don't 12 pull a whole lot. Like, if you would do this opening against Bly, Serral, Elaser, Lambo, and they would 12 pull you, you'd be in so much trouble. If the Lynx would take a slightly different route, avoid your probe, I think you're just dead.
I think so too. And okay, so it was gas first into gateway, and the fact that it was such a late scout as well. Yeah, it'd be. I mean, this probe is arriving at 2 minutes in the Zerg base. Yeah, like he'd be stupid then, I think. But if you do go for such a build where your gateway's late and everything, I do kind of like the idea of Trap. He's like, okay, I'm cutting this corner. I'm just going to cut all the corners in the early game and see if I can get away with it. And he has.
Yep. It's going to be Stalker first coming out of Trap. Let's see if he's going for a Twilight console or not. Yep. There's the Twilight in the main base. I think that you were onto something, Ben. It could very well be DTs in this one. Now, obviously, there's many ways to play out a Twilight console opening. It doesn't have to be DTs. It could be traditional Resonating Glaive Adepts and then even follow that up with a Dark Shrine or not. We'll keep a close eye on everything, but yeah, maybe Trap just looked at that previous series and is like, you don't really open up Overlord speed, you don't sacrifice an Overlord in the main base of the Protoss. I think I can catch you off guard here in game one.
Yeah, certainly, because he's had the benefit of watching, like, right fresh as well, Rogue's recent ZVP and his shenanigans and stuff, whereas Rogue is a little bit more in the dark. So if you had to give somebody an edge in that regard, you could say, yeah, that's quite a nice little advantage. That being said, it is going to be Adept Glaives. So, I mean, I did kind of say it might be the DT kind of stuff, but still, this is something that you don't see as often these days.
No, especially not on this map. I don't think it's ultra common on this map. There are some of the maps where I still see, I feel like we see it a bit more. On Jagannatha, you don't see the straight-up Resonating Glaive openings very quick. That's a lot of gateways. So he's going for the 5 gate. No, never mind. This is 4 gates for now. Apparently, I cannot count, guys. I thought the second gateway was already up and running in the natural. So it's 4 gates Resonating Glaives at this point. Has not taken any extra gases yet. Rogue seems to be a little bit confused as he's building a Spore Crawler in the main base. So it wasn't just us thinking about a Dark Shrine. It has to be Rogue thinking about it too. Unless he feels that Trap has been banking up Oracles, but we obviously know that that's not the case. Well, I see potential in these Adepts, man.
Yeah, me too. I love those Zerglings outside the airspace as well for Rogue, just patrolling to see what comes out. I think those two, in fact, this is multiple Adepts now that he's seen, so he knows exactly what he's up against here. Or at least he knows that Adepts are coming his way. He doesn't know with what gateway count and such.
Yeah. I mean, if this was a 5-gate version, I think I'd be very scared because the roaches are not totally out yet. We are going to get a Spine Crawler up now for Rogue. Where is he building that spine? It's kind of in between all the bases. I would cancel this Shade, I think. Nope, he's going to let it finish up instead. It's a bit awkward because there were some Zerglings trapping these Adepts, and this will allow the Roaches to get a couple of extra shots up too. I felt the Adepts were doing really good against the Queens, and I wouldn't have minded Trap stick around a little bit longer, because if that first Queen falls, it's often very doable to take out the second Queen too.
Yeah, like Trap's economy is definitely decent behind this, and he's getting a bit more damage here, but This is costing a lot for him, and those last Adept shots there actually did more damage than the first Adept did, it felt like, but I'm still, if I'm in Rogue's position here, it's not bad at all, I feel.
And the lair is obviously very late whenever you go up against this strategy. So I think that Rogue is a bit paranoid about the Dark Strike.
Oh,
By
this is
another
nice.
Sport Crawler at this point. The Zerglings do show up at a pretty perfect moment on the other side of the map. They find both Adepts. This Nexus is definitely going to get cancelled. But during all of this, Trap warped in a few more Adepts. And he found 5 additional drones for himself. So Trap is still a 2-base Protoss. Rogue actually has Ravages on the other side of the map. Alright, I did not see that.
Me neither, and these are actually going to be kind of annoying to deal with, because the only thing you can really shoot them with is the range units, obviously. And it's quite a few vulnerable buildings, but Rogue isn't going to stick around, actually, by the looks of it.
Yeah, I don't think I like it that much for Trap, right? Because it's 44 against 44 workers at this point. We have seen games, especially on Submarine, for instance, where the pros play will often have a Robo-Way behind all of this, and they'll make a little push with 1 or 2 Disruptors. Those can be very good. This War Prism needs to be careful. His Queens are waiting to receive it, and there is a Sport Crawl on the edge too. Trap still just wants to go in. A very stubborn boy.
Oh.
Good job there saving that drone by Rogue.
Yeah, and even a little bit of a pull there as well. He's going to lose 3 drones for 2 Adepts. I don't think that's too bad, actually, for Trap. Anytime he can get away with that, but the main thing that he's been doing here is buying himself time to get up that third that he's been waiting for quite some time now.
Yep, and then the nice thing is that he already has a bunch of static defenses everywhere from the early game. So there's always that Spine Crawler to fall back to. He's got a couple of Spore Crawlers. It's going to make the War Prism a bit less annoying. I would like to see a Baneling Nest. I don't really know why we don't have a Baneling Nest, because we have quite a few Zerglings out on the map, but it seems like Rogue, for now, just wants to build nothing but Roaches and Ravages. And an Infestation Pit. Alright, that's why we don't have a Baneling Nest. I guess we are going to see a couple of Swarmos making their appearance on this map. Anything else wouldn't really make a lot of sense to me.
And that's definitely how you see this game going, eh? Swarm Host, maybe some Nidus on the way.
I think this is a decent map for Nidus. I mean, I'd be very shocked if he just fires up a Hive. I mean, yeah, we could abduct a couple of Immortals, but, well, there's the Hydra then too. I mean, it would be very late for Swarmos, so maybe he will just go into very quick Hive.
I mean, it is unusual play by him, right? So he's getting the missile attacks here, a few drones going down, but is that to some random Adepts again? I think most likely, right?
Yep, there were a couple of Adepts in the natural. A lot of us mining time there, so they were somewhat successful. Trap is making a move out. I gotta say, this Protoss army doesn't look that devastating. Now with that big weapon of Stalkers, it starts looking a little bit more dangerous, but the Ravager count is at 12. So all that Rogue really needs to do here is just build a whole bunch of Roaches, and with 12 Ravagers, I have the feeling you can buy a lot of time for yourself. There are some of those static defenses from the early game that we mentioned. As Corrosive Vials will take care of the first set of force fields, connect a little bit with the sentries too. I think Rogue should be fine here. It's gonna be annoying, it's always a bit tricky, but I think with this many Ravagers, you shouldn't die.
No, definitely not. And I'm looking at this, and I do feel that Rogue's getting himself into a decent spot, but he has to respect the fact that this army is very strong, and the Blink Stalkers getting forward here. He has to dodge the Bios manually now, and they do land in great effect. The drones being pulled as well. They are going to be good at soaking up a lot of the damage. The supplies are getting very close here. The Immortals are the last guys to be standing here, but they're getting surrounded.
Yep, the War Prism is going to try to save the Immortals. Only one of them gets saved in the end. I think Rogue has successfully defended this in the end. Sure, it wasn't cheap. He lost a bunch of drones. He was forced to pull the workers off the line, but he's about to be a Hive-Tech Zerg with still a minor economic advantage. I gotta say that I think the Roaches were a little bit late, right? I think that Rogue thought like, Trap is gonna respect this. I've got so many Ravagers, I'll just keep him busy with Colossal. Then, oh, that's risky by Trap. Then all of a sudden, Trap is like, you know what, to hell with all of this force field corrosive bile dance. I'm just gonna blink on top of your units. And it looked really scary for a second, but brilliant pull on the drones. I really do believe that is what allowed Rogue to win that fight in the end.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I like Rogue's handling and his tech choices this game as well. I know you were talking about the Baneling Nest and stuff, but and I do think that could have been really good too. But I like how he's done this, and he's doing things in what I think is an unusual way. Maybe this is like super standard for a lot of Zergs, but it's like the Hydralisk and the Infestation Pit gets the Hive, and it's specifically for that lurker den and getting the lurkers out, and with the hive upgrades, which I like everything he's done. It just all kind of clicks and makes sense from Rogue's perspective.
And that was a pretty committed attack by Trap, because he's still just at 51 probes. He's not building a whole lot of probes behind this, and that attack definitely had the intention to just straight up win the game. Since that didn't happen, I mean, what has really happened for Trap ever since that attack didn't win the game? Did we see new sentries? Nope. Did we see new immortals? Nope. Did we see extra probes or new tech? No. It's basically just Blink Stalkers at this point. That War Prism is coming in from a very awkward angle, as it's kind of behind the Protoss army at this point, so you can't really unload those units. This is not going anywhere for Trap, but he's still gonna try. It's just going to be good old Blink Stalkers trying to win the game. Rogue should stop building drones at this point. Like, you really don't need to, mate. You just need a couple of extra units. You need to survive, and if you survive, you win.
Yeah, I mean, Rogue's army doesn't look super big, but it's very powerful, and Stalker's only here. I mean, Rogue doesn't need to do this, but the fact that he's able to, it just shows. And then the Lurker shot too. I won't be surprised if Trap taps out right here, right now.
Yep, he has one observer, but that observer, I believe, was not in the right position. GG, Rogue will take the 1-0 lead. Just off the back of a pretty funky game. I mean, there was maybe a little bit of misreading with all the spore crawlers and stuff, but, you know, they still helped out. They helped out keeping the War Prism at bay. They just made his life overall pretty decent. I think the first shade of the Adepts of Trap, I would have liked to see him keep the Adepts near the Prism and just take out another Queen. And after that, I think you can always start going for multiple mineral lines at once. But I feel the Queens were quite vulnerable. The Roach count wasn't really there yet. I think the first shade into the main really did not pay off.
I think you're totally right. Like, even the surface area, like the Lings got a full wraparound around them, and while they killed all the Lings, there was only like a few Adepts left over that were all battered and bruised. And, you know, the next wave of Adepts that wasn't really meant to be the killing blow or anything like that, they did more damage than the first, like 8 Adepts, which was kind of weird to say. But yeah, I'm with you, Kev. I even think like sending a few over to the third or something, but making sure that your Warp Prism could do something, because even though we can say that Trap handled it maybe not the best, Rogue definitely made it very difficult for Trap to get anything done that game, and all his follow-ups were great as well. He played safe, he played careful. That wasn't the Rogue that I'm used to seeing within regards to him being super careful and stuff, but he did a lot of good stuff as well with cancelling the third and
I love
it.
that, yeah. I actually think that was a key move, because if Trap, you know, gets that little Adept skirmish and he has killed a bunch of drones in the end, but then he just casually goes up to 3 bases, the push that he made now, that looked pretty scary and that got perhaps somewhat close to winning the game. Imagine if that push shows up a bit quicker and has even more units, maybe an extra Immortal or something, who knows, a few extra Gateway units. It could have been even scarier, and it could have very well ended the game. In the end, it wasn't enough, which means he now needs to win 2 maps in a row to make it into the playoffs. The bottom right side, our Korean Protoss player, it is Trap.
And spawning on the top left-hand side, as the Red Zerg, it is Rogue. For a moment there, I was watching Trap, and I was like, he chrono boosted before the pylon or anything like that, but, you know, didn't get there with the probe in time. That's actually quite sad for him, given that that's a few resources lost that he really wanted to get there to block that hatchery.
Yep, Rogue, you can see he's not making the same mistake as he made against Parting on this map. Took the hatchery a little bit earlier, and that's why he was able to take it on time. It was super close, but it was just in time. And these are all the little things that I think if you're Rogue now, you already feel pretty good about it. You know that Trap wanted to prevent you from taking the hatchery, you get it down anyway. Takes his gas a little bit quicker than most Zerg players take the gas. Now, I don't think it's necessary for Rogue to do something wild here in the early game. But with Rogue, up 1-0, you never know.
I mean, that's when you've got a safety net, right? And your opponent doesn't. So your opponent technically has to not cut corners and can't gamble against you. And even though it's an early gas, he's not actually fully mining from it just yet. He was waiting for all the drones to kind of pop out one by one. So it wasn't a rush or anything. Didn't really harm his economy at all. So far, I've just been enjoying Rogue's EVP, honestly. I think very often I can see him try and kill his opponent constantly, but now he seems a lot more comfortable just kind of playing it out and seeing where it goes.
There are close calls, and it does often feel that he finds himself in a bit of trouble, against spotting on Death Aura, against Trap maybe in the previous game as that attack looked a bit scary, and even against spotting on the Romanticide. But yeah, one thing that Rogue I think is in general very good at, it's spending his money. You rarely see him float when he shouldn't be floating. I think that really helps, right? There's never really a moment where he wasn't ready because he had 1,200 minerals in the bank, and he could have had all these units, but he didn't. I think that's really one of the things that he excels at.
Yeah, certainly. And, I'm going through my head and I'm like, I could say the very same thing about Trap, it's not always the fanciest of micro or anything like that, but it's always very solid fundamentals, knowing what to do, being fairly decisive as well about what to do. This game on Romanticide, given that this is a more defensive map than most maps, I feel like getting up to 3 bases is, I don't want to say a guarantee, but it's almost there. So the fact that he's opted for a Stargate this game, an Oracle. You don't often see the Oracle before the Void Ray these days, but I like it.
Yeah, maybe he feels that Rogue is a bit late on the Spore Crawlers, and once again, Rogue not really the guy to send an Overlord in the main base early on. So there is a chance that his first Oracle could be somewhat successful. I mean, I love Trap's Oracle play. I really don't think it's an overstatement when you say this could very well be the best Oracle player in the world. I don't know how he often keeps them around for so long, how he's able to get that much value out of it. It's a single Oracle into a Void Ray. So I guess the Void Ray will be used defensively, help Trap go up to 3 bases and take out the Overlord. The Queens are in a decent position, but at this point, Rogue really doesn't know yet. There's an Oracle heading towards his natural.
And this is arriving very quickly as well, and it's going to get spotted by this Overlord, but it's still pretty damn close. But yeah, Rogue's very quick to respond here.
He's going to go for the main. There is 1 Queen and a Spore Crawl in the main. What's at the 3rd base? Not a whole lot, but there were only 2 drones. He's going to morph 1 drone into a Spore immediately, saves the other one. So far, Rogue is bulletproof.
He certainly is. Although here, okay, does dance around for that. Nice play by both of them, actually. I mean, Trap taking a little bit of damage here on the Oracle, not getting more than 1 drone, but forcing the change. But the big thing here is he did secure his 3rd base, and it's going up. He's got the Adepts there as well in the nice little position. This is going to turn into a proper game here, and I like it.
Rogue will just once again go for +1 melee. Seems to be very fond of it here on the Romanticide. Trap is not doing the double Stargate stuff we saw come out of parting. It's just a single Stargate, and then he will just head into that ground-based composition. Overlord finds a Void Ray, and that's not something you want to find as an Overlord, so that one will get taken out. There were Queens nearby, but I guess nobody really had enough energy to save the Over.
I wonder if Trap looked at that game between parting and Rogue and was like, hey, I like the Void Rays, but 2 Stargate Void Ray, was it necessary? Did it get done what you wanted it to get done? Because it feels like that, but he's just kind of changing that part of it, right?
The Oracle could help out here. I think a Void Ray and an Oracle would absolutely win the fight against those 2 Queens, even though there were transfuses available. A couple of drones went down to, I guess, a random Adept without resonating glaives. 2 Adepts, actually. Oracle dives in the natural, finds another drone or 2, and then needs to disengage. I mean, so far, I kind of like it from Trap. Obviously not getting game-ending damage, but he is finding, I feel like, the tiny bits of damage that he's looking for, while not investing a whole lot into finding that damage.
I think that's the big thing there. He's not investing a lot into the damage that he's dealing, and he was also very quick about getting up that 3rd, so he doesn't really need to deal a ton of damage like you normally look after when you're trying to send this many units at your opponent. But yeah, he's just been kind of tickling his opponent while being quite greedy behind it, but also just being very safe, and I like the way how he's been handling it.
Yeah. Bailing speed on the way for Rogue. The economy of Rogue looking all right. We saw him build... He's actually making so many Queens, Ben. Like, this is not standard. You don't normally see a Zerg player producing 4 extra Queens 7 minutes into the game while already having 7 Queens. He's gonna go for the March of the Queen with Ling Bane. Like, he's dropping an Evo Chamber, but you don't need 11 Queens. Like, Queens are good, don't get me wrong, but that seems a little much. I mean, this is a weird move out by Trap too. The first Void Ray is going to fall immediately. I don't really understand what we were looking for here. As 1 Archon, 1 Zealot not good enough. Here are the extra Zealots and Archons, but it sucks so hard for Trap that he just lost half of his army before all these units even showed up.
I'm with you. I saw that army there getting surrounded by the Lings and fighting like the 10 queens that he didn't know about, but what was he doing there, you know? Like, I have no idea. It felt like he was just kind of like, oh, I'm in the wrong part of town here.
I'm surprised that, like, we have this many queens. I do think that Rogue really felt that he was going maybe up against double Stargate. We know that's not the case. Now what do you do with all these extra queens? Rogue is just going to macro up from here on out, as we see 11 drones being produced. Infestation Pit has gone down. But yeah, Trap is now an almost 4 base Protoss with Storm. And I don't really see him being in any danger of dying. The only thing that Rogue could really do is throw an overwhelming amount of Banelings at him. Maybe some Baneling drops. His Overlord speed is close to finishing up, but it feels a bit weird.
I'm getting a little bit more confused as well. So he's going for the +1 armor, like Carapace. He's also still getting more queens while taking up
Ultras then, I guess. It must be for Ultras, because otherwise you cannot do anything with 13 queens.
No, I mean, like, normally if you get, like, plus melee and then plus range, like, that's almost always more useful. The only thing that wants armor, really, for Zerg is Ultras, and it's just a very unusual way of going about things for Rogue, and he's finding himself at a kind of economic, I don't want to call it a deficit.
Zealots in the center? I don't like all these Zealots at front. I was about to say, if they would have gone a little bit deeper, the Banelings could have potentially connected with them. Yeah. I mean, it is hard to attack into, creep all these queens and then all these Banelings too. Because if you A-move, all the Zealots storm forward and they just kind of clump up and the Banelings will just wipe them out. This is going to be, it has to be Ultras. Anything else would be bizarre. We don't have a Spire yet either. This wouldn't be like the worst army ever to build Broodlords against, but it's just so hard to really get Broodlords up and running and get them to the other side of the map. Ultras is a bit easier.
Yeah, and it is the Ultralisk cannon going down, so it's I don't want to say a super unusual Zerg mix to be going for, but yeah, this is a little bit different than what you see from a lot of the European Zergs, I do feel, and not in a bad way, but I guess that sort of makes more sense why you got so many queens as well, right? Like the transfusers can come in handy for the Ultras as well.
Well, that is absolutely one thing that queens will be very useful for, and then it's keeping those Ultras alive. We had a tiny bit of War Prism harassment while Rogue was busy hunting the Oracle on the bottom left, did not get the Oracle. I actually think it's very nice to have an Oracle with 200 energy when your opponent technically doesn't have a whole lot of mobile anti-air. It's just the queens. Oracles can be very useful defensively, not only in the stasis traps, but just activated Pulsar Beam too against Banelings coming in from every angle.
So if you're Trap, what do you start looking for? What do you start going for? What do you fear at this point? Because he's closing in on max. He's getting good upgrades about. He's going for Blink and a 5th base. I think the Blink's a bit weird at this point, but
yeah,
he doesn't really know what's coming, does he?
No, I mean, which is funny because he does have that Oracle. He's going to see a whole bunch of Banelings. I don't know if you need to fight it, but maybe he's just looking for a trade. Lands a couple of Storms. A few Banelings do bite the dust. Trap is going for some multi-prong. The Zealots and Archons have found a pretty exposed base. I mean, well, the Zealots are gone. The Archon's going to be a little bit harder, but the Zerglings will be enough. At the same time, Rogue is denying a 5th base. There's still an army in the bottom left, though. How many Banelings are left? Over 50 Banelings. If the Banelings connect with the High Templars, man, Trap is in trouble.
He certainly is. Rogue still hasn't got Adrenal Glands, and the storms are raining down in this fight. The High Templar sitting safely behind, but there is so much Zerg just running on through with so many queens in support, and Trap just got engulfed right there and then.
Yep, and these Lings with +2 have also managed to take out a cannon. They won't get much more than that. Trap has a couple of extra gateway units showing up at the bottom. The Oracle does get obliterated too. Apparently 15 drones went down in all of this. 4 Immortals by themselves on the right side. Good job on the recall there, because those Immortals would have absolutely been bamboozled by the Lynx. Trap's gonna make a mothership. I mean, yeah, I guess why not, right? If your opponent doesn't have a whole lot of anti-air, it's hard to kill motherships. Yeah, before I was really able to answer your question, we kind of just had too much action. But I don't think you really need to be too aggressive here if you're Trap. I would just kind of like, he's got a fleet beacon. I think you can slowly but steady head into a few air units too, because queens are, once again, they're good, but you know, queens do not stand a chance against carriers, and sure, it takes a long time for carriers to kill Ultras, but I think it's still nice to have them. Or just make a couple extra Void Rays with Flux Veins. I don't think that's the worst thing either.
I just love looking at this production tab between these guys. Like Mothership on the way, +2 Immortals at a time. Ultras on the way with Chitinous already done, but they're getting up to 3-2 upgrades. The one thing that I really want Rogue to start is Adrenal. Like, making those Lings quite a lot stronger. And I mean, with +3 weapons as well. And I think he's against 0 armor here on the Protoss units. They could
I think
really
he thinks he
start
already
doing
has
damage.
it, Ben. Like,
I think
it's
so
normally
too.
one of the first things you get as soon as Hive kicks in. When you're this heavy on the Lings, when the Lings are this important for you, it's one of the very first things you fire up. Like, he's got +3 melee finishing up. I'm pretty sure he thinks he already has Adrenal Glands.
I think so as well. I mean, that's a lot of Lings. Can you imagine if they had crack Lings right now? They would be insane. But they're still dealing good damage. Oh, shield battery overcharge just go down. Just get a Robo, which is pretty nice. But Trap, he's committed. He's going for Warp Prism in the main base, which is nice. He's got his army out in the middle of kind of nowhere. But these Lings are really... He has to respect these Lings.
Well, yes, he has to respect them, and I think he has been sort of respecting them as he used the battery overcharge too. But you're spot on, Ben. These Lings, even now, they did all right, I'd say. They're killing a Robo and stuff, killing a couple of the static defenses. If they had the Adrenal Glands upgrade too, they would have just ripped through that entire base in no time.
How many Immortals are on the field? We've got 8 Immortals, 6 more Ultras being made, and there's already 5 on the field. This is going to be a chaotic fight. I actually don't know who would win if they went straight up. I guess it depends where they fight, because that Zerg army on creep is fast and also ferocious.
Yep. I think actually Time Warp can be somewhat useful here too, and that's not something we say very often, but I think there is some potential for a good Time Warp, and obviously the Storms are going to be very important, because yes, the Ultras matter, but the Zerglings and Banelings will still matter too. So Storms need to be good. Storms do go down. Mostly land on the Ultras. Still a lot of Banelings in the back line.
Oh, these Immortals are so tightly packed here, just firing down these Ultras so damn quickly. A nice Time Warp as well. Lots of Lings being made. Most of the Storms have been used here, so lots of Zerglings would be very, very useful, but there's so much firepower in this army of Trap, but it is now clumping up, and these Ultras are getting big hits.
Yep, Queens are doing whatever they can to keep the Ultras alive, but it seems like there's just not enough energy. I really think like a couple of Zerglings coming in from the right side could have been massive too. These Lings, though, they have been pretty much useless up to this point. A couple of extra Banelings are going to try to save the day, but this is a Protoss army that is not afraid of 1 or 2 Ultras. There is so much firepower in all these Immortals, all the Archons. Banelings do finish up, but the Mothership has been very, very useful here. GG will be called. Trap will send this Series 2 to a deciders match. And that means all 5 best of 3s have gone 2-1 either way. And that just kind of goes to show what a fun day of StarCraft this has been.
You know, when you're schedule planning, you're like, okay, these games can go 2-0 or 2-1. How do you think it's going to go? It's like, they're all close matches, mate. They're all close matches. They really are. This has gone full 15 maps today, which is as much StarCraft as you could hope for in one day here over at the DreamHack Last Chance. Anyhow, guys, we're going to go to a short break, and then we'll find out who makes it out in second place in this group. Do stay tuned. Hello, hello, and welcome back. It's the last game of the day, no matter what happens from here, because, in fact, could be a tie, actually.
Could be a draw, Ben.
Could be a draw. We were saying it could be long, could be short, but it could be a draw as well. So, no, I'm not going to go with that, but it will be Trap going up against Rogue, and it will be on Death Aura. This is one of those maps where it's very easy to set yourself up on 3 or 4 bases kind of thing. So we could be in for a long one here, Kev. Or a short one.
This man has shown us that he is very willing to play some of the later stages in this matchup with a lot of lurkers. Maybe not the ultimate late game, but at least willing to play Hive Tech. Top left side, representing Dragon Phoenix Gaming, our Korean Zerg player, Rogue.
And representing Africa Freaks, it is Trap. It is actually very nice that all these players from the old Jinair Green Wings team got snapped up very, very quickly. And they're all representing very good organizations once again.
Yeah, I guess if you win everything for a couple of years in a row, that is bound to happen. It'd be very shocking if like not every team looked at these guys and like Maru, nah, we don't want those guys. Who wants to have those guys on your roster? Well, pretty much everyone.
Pretty much everyone. Like, it was kind of funny. Like, when the players were getting snapped up, I was like, I think Trap and Maru will probably be the first ones to go. And then it was like Trap that took the longest to get a team, you know. But maybe he was just like finding out his options, seeing what's available and stuff. But yeah, we'll see how this game goes.
Trap going for the same opening as he went for on Jagannatha, right? Where the Probe Scout will probably come as soon as the Cybernetics core has been warped in, but it's so late. I feel like this is not something you want to do too many times in a row. Obviously, he did switch it up in the previous game where he did scout. Because I know Rogue, and I feel like if you would do that in a best of 5 3 times in a row, he will punish you, right? He will start 12 pooling, even if that wasn't his plan to begin with. I think Rogue in general is very quick on picking up on things like that.
I think so too. Like, Rogue has always been very good in those best of 5/7 situations where he can really kind of learn his opponent's weaknesses. Similar to a laser in a way, like figures out how to kill you as opposed to how to get ahead of you. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean, Ben.
It is interesting though, because I mean, Kevin, I've been leveling up my Zerg a little bit recently, and I got to say, I'm a 12-pool man when it comes to ZVP, so I don't know how Trap would do against even my Zerg, you know what I'm saying?
Well, I think with this opening, I honestly don't think he'd do very hot unless you would run the link straight into his pro. But even then, it's going to be so hard because he doesn't start a zealot. Like sometimes you have seen people open up like this in the past, and they'll start a safety unit that they can then cancel if they see everything is normal. But Trap really is playing a pretty dangerous game here in the early stage. But yeah, because he's switching it up, it does become a bit harder to punish it, right? Because in the first game, he didn't scout. Second game, he does scout. The third game, he again kind of doesn't scout, even though he scouts very late. But I think variance is very important. That just makes it so much harder for your opponents to start blind countering you.
Absolutely. Like, mixing things up and showing the same kind of thing early on, like, that is one of the things I absolutely swear by. Like, if you're doing the same build to an opponent on a pro level when you're in a best of series, it's very different to ladder. In a best of series, like, your opponent, he isn't a bot. He can absolutely learn to play against you, and builds, like, there isn't one safe build to rule them all kind of situation. Even the safe builds are weak against other things like greedy play. And StarCraft players in general, quite a lot of them are quite smart.
Rogue just likes to drop that 330 Roach Warren, I have noticed. This time I believe his Zergling did see that Oracle leave, so even if the Overlord did not get the confirmation yet, wow, this is different by the way, very quick Robo as a follow-up for Trap. Seems like Trap just wants to play a very passive game here. I think he got distracted by the Zergling attacking his probe on the bottom side of the map, and even these split moments where your Zergling is not going to kill the probe, just by distracting Trap, he just allowed his queens to do a lot of damage to the Oracle.
So, okay, with Trap getting a few extra gateways and that Robo, Kev, like, because I was expecting that third to go down, like, pretty damn quickly, but this is obviously very different to what we saw on Romanticide from him.
I do still think he wants to expand. I don't think like that's a fake, but he is mining an awful lot of gas. Like he was taking both assimilators and they were both complete. Wait, why is it not the Roach Warren? I canceled the Roach Warren. So Rogue canceled the Roach Warren and when he realized he didn't need one early on because he saw the Oracle, and now he will be rebuilding it.
I think this is a lot of you know when you can sometimes see games and it's not necessarily the most economically safe, or rather not the most economic opening, but you're respecting your opponent a lot and thinking about what they can do to you to punish you. So I think even though Trap could have got up a third earlier, maybe he saw the Roach Warren and was like, oh, I could potentially die to that, and then the Roach Warren was cancelled, and it's like the third goes up later anyhow, so throwing a few spanners in the works, you know?
Trap is about to attack Rogue, like 100%, because he's banking up so many sentries, he's firing up a War Prism, we already have one Immortal, that's not that many, but at least these Oracles are doing a good job in picking up a couple of drones. So while picking these units off, maybe you force Rogue to reproduce the drones that he's been losing. But at this point, it's very simple for Rogue. Nothing but units. He's kind of supply blocked, Ben. It won't take... He's building a drone. Why would you build a drone?
It looked like he had one supply to use, so he was like, okay, I can't make a Ling. I'll make a... I don't know, Kev, I don't know. These Oracles flying in to get as much damage as they can before his all-in is going to hit. I mean, oh, he's actually droning up a lot here.
Oh, no.
So much.
Rogue completely misreading this, firing up 10, 11 drones. Yeah, he's got the 5 safety Ravages. I mean, but these corrosive balls, they need to buy a lot of time. They need to really connect. Now, Trap is building probes behind this, so this is not all-out commitment. And it actually seems that Trap was really respecting this army of Rogue. He saw the Ravages were ready, and he's like, there's not much I can do here with my little Gateway Sentry 1 Immortal Force. But I actually do think, Ben, there was something he absolutely could have gotten done there, because Rogue had nothing other than those 5 Ravages.
So, Kevin, I'm going to ask you now, was that droning actually like a super smart 200 IQ play, knowing that Trap was actually going to back off, and it was just kind of a keep you honest play? Or was it damn lucky?
Yeah, I don't know. The truth, perhaps, is somewhere in between. Who knows, Ben? But it worked out for Rogue because he will survive. And that is obviously the most important thing. Now, Trap is obviously not even too unhappy with all of this because he's keeping Rogue a 3-base Zerg. And I think that is perhaps the main goal of this push. Couple good force fields go down. Queen's getting picked up. Ravagers getting picked up as well as not a cancel. Now Rogue is firing up a Hive, man. Hive as a 3-base Zerg. That feels so wild to me.
I'm just so surprised that he's getting pushed around so hard, right? Oh, nice bile on that observer there. But he's getting so pushed around by Trap that this isn't even Trap's final form behind all this. Like, he's on a pretty damn good probe count. He's getting the blink on the go. He's just making more and more back at home, and the supplies are very close. I mean, he's obviously going for lurkers, which are great and will be so good against what Trap has, but still, Rogue, should he be getting pushed around this hard? I don't feel so.
Well, I think it just all comes down to all the drones that he made. So, you know, it would have worked out if Trap would have just backed off and gone to his side of the map. So he could have been a 4-base Zerg. But just didn't really have the units. Runs into his own corrosive ball there. Not very optimal. Rogue building 8 more drones, even way before his 4th base is done. Now, obviously, I understand he feels like he needs a strong economy to eventually deal with his army. But now with Blink finishing up, +1 finishing up, this kind of has to be go time, right, for Trap.
Oh, if certainly's got the wraparound. I mean, this is buying him a bit more time and seeing where Trap's army exactly is. Because moving down that ramp is going to be a bit tough against Biles if you're ready, but doesn't look like Rogue is. That being said, the Biles do start landing. A few Oracles are picked off. This Oracle has done a good job of just staying alive and being annoying, despite having like 1 health, basically.
Yeah, it literally had 1 health. The first time when both of them dived in, it was a bit wild. The Ravages are in a really vulnerable spot, if you ask me. These Stalkers, what are they going to do? They'll drop a couple of force fields at first. The sentries, that is. And now we go for a Trap. Will blink on top of all these Ravages. It's important to avoid the corrosive balls. He's doing a good job in doing so. Drones being pulled again, Ben. I think I like it for Trap, but it is getting close.
It getting very close. Trap still has a big warp in there. A lot of fresh Stalkers joining the fight. Just drones left. The DPS has completely vanished from Rogue's army, and he's just making more and more roaches, which, if they're just going to be trickling in one by one, it is not going to be enough. Trap so confident, blinking aggressively. Rogue looks defeated on his webcam. A big smash from Rogue, and GG is called. Rogue is out, and Trap moves on through.
Yeah, but very cool final.